everything that's been necessary. Roberto's done it. He's probably crying already in that car. He's an extraordinarily emotional man. The final two turns, Roberto Moreno turns onto the pit straight, and Roberto Moreno has done it. Finally, in 9 races, 8 different winners, but Roberto Moreno is the king.
So we can get on TV. We need to get in there fast.
And I'm going to just show this thing off.
Fantastic. It's just a feeling I cannot describe. It's almost as good as when my daughters were born. It's fantastic.
One of the most eventful races. There was some speculation this weekend by Michael Andretti, Oriol, Jimmy Bass.
Watch your speed, leave the fuel meter, reset the fuel meter.
Let's go get him.
From Cleveland, Ohio, America's 28th largest city, welcome to another edition of Inside Kart. I'm Chris Miles.
And I'm Michelle Garforth. The Champ Cars are on the move between here and Toronto, so Chris and I are bringing you our second show from the shores of Lake Erie. We're coming to you from an evolving Cleveland, a place that is filled with magical treasures for the new century.
Coming up on this edition of Inside Kart, we profile Roger Penske. Bill Adam gets technical with Champ Car brakes. We explore driver superstitions, and Patrick Carpentier proves he's a hot performer on the track and in the air.
And talking about hot performers, we're moving up to Toronto and the Molson Indy, so let's take a look at who's racing hot on the track.
The 2000 FedEx Championship Series season may be the most competitive in history. In the 9 races so far this season, there have been 8 different winners. This Neon driver Roberto Moreno, who just grabbed his first career Champ Car win, may be the hottest. He's also had 2 runner-up finishes and has taken control of the championship points lead as the halfway point comes up. Marlboro Team Penske not only got Roger Penske's long-awaited 100th win, but have claimed victory in 3 of the last 5 races. Last year's series champion Juan Montoya dominated the first 7 events, leading more than half the laps but getting only 1 win. The last 2 races have seen him not lead for the first time all year. And Team Cool Green's 2nd and 3rd a year ago have struggled and are yet to find a winning combination. With a perfect 22-point weekend, Moreno adds to his championship point lead, now on top with 90. Michael Andretti moves to 2nd at 68, followed by Gilles de Ferran with 67. Kenny Brack jumps to 4th at 63, with Paul Tracy and Jimmy Bass tied for 5th, each with 59. Inside Kart is presented by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. Also brought to you by the new generation in communication, WorldCom Generation D. By Kart.com. Follow all the kart action on and off the track live on Kart.com. And by Ford, the latest innovations, the greatest tradition.
I'm Roger Penske. You're watching Inside Kart on ESPN2.
Welcome back to Inside Kart. It takes a lot of skill to get behind the wheel of a Champ car. It also takes a certain level of faith that everything will go well. Many of the drivers have rituals before they get inside the car. A lot of them don't. But one thing they all share is an opinion about the power of superstition in racing.
Everyone knows it's bad luck to break a mirror. Heck, actors won't even whistle inside a theater. And even kids know to step over a crack in the sidewalk. But what do drivers do? Considering the inherent dangers in racing and the quest for the golden ring, you can bet that drivers are looking for any extra edge that they can get. From lucky pennies to what side of the car they get in on. The drivers we all spoke to, they pretty much had routines that sounded suspiciously like superstitions. Well, we'll let you be the judge.
Sometimes when I find a penny on the ground, you know, I make a wish and I throw it without looking where it's going.
Well, it depends. If it heads up, I guess you have to, don't you?
For Indy last year, for example, I picked up every lucky penny I found 6-7 months prior to the race. So I ended up with 2 in each shoe and you know, see what they did for me. I won the race, you know.
You need to be strong here to be a champ. And if you let small things affect you, weaken you, and it doesn't give you any strength.
I'm full-blooded Native American. My tribe's not denomination, and I got like a feather that's actually given to me from a medicine man that's on the reservation. He blessed it and everything, so hopefully that brings me good luck and keep me safe. And I just have it here in the car that just kind of dangles right there by my leg, right below the dash.
I used to have some. I used to get in on the same side of the car all the time.
I only jump in the car always from the same side.
I usually always get in on the left side and usually always get out on the left side.
All right, jump into the car always from the left side.
I only get in from the right side. Yeah. And then when I put my gloves on, I always have to put my left glove on first. But it's like routine. I wouldn't say it's really superstition.
Superstition, I think, is for losers.
I do both ways. I couldn't really care. The problem is you want to be facing the right way when you go out.
I'd walk under a ladder to get into the race car, it doesn't bother me.
I see a ladder in the street and then I don't really want to walk under it.
But Carl, on the other hand, he has enough superstition to take care of both of us, I think. And he has his rituals of things that he does before a race, and he needs to start working on it a little harder though, because we haven't been doing good the last few races.
No green, don't wear green, and that's pretty much from Indy in the old days.
Ever since I was growing up, I heard that green is supposedly an unlucky color, but we don't put much stock in that.
I just make sure that this flat piece of my ring, that's always right there at the bottom of my finger.
One is never set your helmet upside down, or you're gonna go upside down.
I guess I've been wearing the same Nomex socks since like '94, and I haven't washed them. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, there's the one about don't have sex before you race, but that kind of got blown out.
Yeah, some people say that makes you quicker. I never tried it.
No, I don't know.
During the preparation of this story, Michael Andretti told me that he would walk under a ladder to get into his race car. Well, we almost got that ladder, but I'm a little too superstitious to test Michael's confidence. The Dayton Indy Lights Championship is designed to build the confidence of young aspiring racers. The man in charge of CART's top feeder system is Roger Bailey, and he's the focus in this week's Future Stars.
Start something you think 2 or 3 years and you're going to be right where the big boys are. It doesn't happen that way, and for anybody that's never started a series from scratch can't begin to understand the difficulties that you go through.
I only knew Roger because he was a car salesman, used car salesman I call him. He worked for March. He conned me into buying something I really didn't need.
Oh, without Patrick it wouldn't have happened, because he was able to go to the other board members, even the ones that disliked the program and said we were taking up time on the schedule. Pat was able to go, as only Pat can, and leverage these guys to give them a tweak here. Little horse trading. Pat Patrick's probably the best horse trader in the business.
So I liked him, and I thought this guy would be a good guy to run this program.
We like to think when a driver steps up from Indy Lights in the Champ car, he's ready to handle not only the on-track activity, but also all the off-track promotional activity. And Roger's spirit, his enthusiasm, and the fact that he also pleases them up and gets them in line when they need to be, really helps develop a driver for all of the extras that motorsports requires these days.
My feeling is we should have the best driver in Champ car. Whether he's Brazilian, Mexican, or American is irrelevant. If I'm the man in IndyCar and setting up my series, I'm going to spend between $10 and $20 million. I can't have a guy because he's a nice guy and he happens to be American. I'm going to have the guy that's going to win races for me.
Everybody, I think, has a lot of respect for Roger. He's had so much experience in racing, and there's no doubt Indy Lights wouldn't be where it's at, providing that competitive series for young drivers trying to make it the Champ car without Roger Bailey's direction.
The Dayton Indy Lights have done their job, training numerous drivers to take their place in the CART FedEx Championship Series. Drivers like Paul Tracy, Brian Herder, Cristiano D'Amata, and of course last year's winner, Oriol Servia. And he's the man that fans want in this week's one-on-one.
Hi, my name is Tom Jeske from Clinton Township, Michigan. My favorite driver is the rookie, Oriol Servia. Oriol, you've got the crazy car. You came from Indy Lights, you're the champion. What's it like being the rookie on the Champ Car Series?
It's obviously difficult because there is a lot more power, but the driving style is very similar even in the ovals or in the street races. But you have to be a lot more careful with your right foot because 900 horsepower are there and you have to be careful.
Servia and his Spanish Telefonica team are dialed up for victory, and we can't wait to hear the ring of that victory bell.
Coming up on Inside Kart, Bill Adam reveals the secret of Champ Car setup. This and more when Inside Kart returns.
Now watch the brakes lock up. Oriol gets in there really deep, just locks him up, so does Mark. Mark's off.
Welcome back to Inside Kart. The speed of Champ Cars is unmistakable. Just look for the blur on the track and you'll know what I'm talking about. But very often, the difference between being on the podium and being an also-ran is how fast you can brake. Right now, our favorite technical expert, Bill Adam, goes to the garage and shares the technology of Champ Car brakes.
One of the other areas of change the kart allows over the course of the season, aside from bodywork and wing changes, is brakes. Normally, this is the type of brake on the kart machines. This is a steel rotor with venting on the outside. And this is used on tracks like Long Beach, for example, where heat really builds up. They have to mount brake scoops as big as possible to take cool air in, blow it into the middle of the rotor, and then it gets vented out through these vents as the wheel spins around. They try and dissipate heat as quickly as possible and thereby keep braking solid. You don't have any brake fade. But a few times a year on the super speedways, it changes from the steel rotor to this type. This is carbon. Now the advantages are enormous. You frequently see carbon rotors glowing bright orange as the brakes are put on. And then as soon as the brakes are let off, they go back to black. This is dissipating the heat, getting rid of as much as fast as possible. And the idea is to keep the braking perfectly solid all the time. Little or no brake fade at all. But the downside is the cost. Rotors that would fit on your street car may cost as little as, say, $30 a rotor. These ones are finely machined pieces out of a special steel, and with the venting, cost upwards of $200. Pretty substantial increase. But to move a carbon, $900 per rotor. Huge costs, and they wear out because they are carbon, they're not steel, so they don't last nearly as long. But the real upside of this thing is an area you wouldn't think of normally, and that is safety. This rotor here, by using carbon on all four corners of the car, will save 45 pounds of rotating mass. Now think on a super speedway, if a wheel or if a suspension piece comes off, that's just a lot less weight to be flying around a projectile. You're going to save bearing wear by having that less weight, and you're going to have a much safer vehicle. In all, a great improvement. For Inside Kart, this is Bill Adam.
Thank you, Bill. Did you know that a Champ car can go from 120 to 0 in 3 seconds? It's incredible. The more you learn, the more you want to learn. So why don't you go to kart.com and click on How Champ Cars Work. But to find out more from a fan's perspective, here's our weekly Kart A to Z.
Data acquisition geek is probably the person you see at all the races who thinks they're actually running the race, running around with a headset on.
I would say data acquisition something. Data acquisition something.
No, that doesn't work.
I don't know someone that sits at a computer all day.
DAG stands for Data Acquisition Geek. And that's basically the guy who takes all the data off the car, downloads it, then uploads it for the engineers to look at. And you know, DAG's kind of a name what actually I think probably developed in America, because you know in England we don't say geek.
The competitive spirit of racers knows no bounds. Some will race anything that moves. Count Patrick Carpentier in that group, as you'll see in this week's Pit Pass.
The test of speed between inverted wings and military afterburners started friendly enough with teammates Patrick Carpentier and Alex Tagliani getting the ride of their lives in the back seats of Twin Hornet CF-18 attack fighters. With the G-meter pushing 5, the player drivers grunted their resolves as they experienced flight with the Canadian Air Force. With gear down and relaxed sphincters, Patrick lined up on the runway to duel one of the world's most sought-after military aircraft. Decidedly outgunned and with slippery conditions, Patrick blasted down the runway with relative ease, leaving, in theory, the $24 million aircraft in the dust. 20,000 people were on hand to watch KART's first military versus civilian victory. That certainly leads to speculation of who has the right stuff.
Coming up, Inside Kart sits down with one of the greatest men in all of racing, Roger Penske, right after this.
Do me a favor. When you hit the spot when you're coming in on your second lap, tell me what it is, because I want to see how long it takes you to get from where you hit the 50-mile-an-hour mark till you get to here, just for my strategy later on. I just want to get the time. So just when you're going to hit the pit lanes, you know, when you know you're go to 50 at the line, tell me where you are. Okay?
Welcome back to Inside Kart. Getting to the top of any field is tough, but staying there is even tougher. It requires determination, focus, and the fundamental belief that being the best is within reach. Recently, we sat down with Roger Penske, affectionately known as the Captain, to discuss racing, the pursuit of excellence, and what it's like to set the standard.
Had a chance while I was in college to race at Le Mans, raced at Sebring, raced at a number of tracks around the country. I guess I won the Can-Am at Riverside and Laguna Seca and finished up my career really in 1964. I really forget that past and tried to take what I'd learned as a driver and really make it portable into being a team owner. Yeah, I do remember when Jim McGee asked me would I take my driver's test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but I had a job and I couldn't get off, and they gave that test to Mario Andretti.
Roger's definitely the inspiration, no question, because he's the one that gets the most out of people. I think he has the uncanny ability of surrounding himself with Class A people and gets the most out of them. So his standards is always something that everybody just feeds off of.
Well, I think when you win championships, it's about people. Certainly you see that with Ganassi. You need the right equipment, there's no question about it, so it's a combination. But our success, whether it's in business or on the racetrack, if you drill down, it's the people who are involved and it's their commitment.
I think it's professionalism. I think when Roger came to the sport stepped up a notch. And I think if you look from the 70s through the 80s and now the 90s and the millennium and so forth, you'll see that the teams have all stepped up and the sport itself has stepped up. And I think a lot of that credit is to Roger Penske.
I think we've set some standards. When we went to Indianapolis, you know, they kidded that we were the crew-cut college guys with the polished wheels and the clean floors. But today, sponsors and people want things that look right. If you are right, you can compete, I think, the presentation. So we've been competitive.
The racing team is a part of all the Penske businesses, and, you know, we're here entertaining guests, and it really does inspire everybody, you know, down into the businesses as well. And, you know, everybody walks around upbeat and a little bit more positive when the team's doing well. You know, in a lot of respects, we're like a big family, and we're pretty proud of what the team does.
Well, I think racing has been a common thread through all of our businesses. You know, it shows execution, it shows speed, it shows teamwork. It's a great customer entertainment medium, and most of all, it creates morale within your human capital. And those are our 30,000 associates that saw our win last week that probably made the real difference. That was the real payoff. It's not the purse. I think it's what it does internally for your organization. So racing has been a common thread whether we win or lose.
I've never seen anybody put the amount of effort into anything and everything than he does. He just, and I think that's what does it. I think just his determination and the amount of effort and time he puts into things. You know, that's always been one of his sayings over the years, effort equals results.
Everything that he does is to the nth degree.
It seems everything he touches turns to gold.
And over the years, I don't think anybody has represented racing better than Roger has.
For a driver like myself that has driven for him, I consider that as high on my list as having driven for Ferrari, you know, or Colin Chapman, you know, people that forever will be strong in the history of our sport.
Roger Penske always had big goals and the ability to connect with people. This dates back to his earliest days as a driver, when after a race, others would kick back and have a cold beer. This driver would go behind the grandstands, slip out of his driving suit and into some business attire. He would then go out and meet the fans with a firm handshake and a winning smile. Although Roger no longer needs to go behind the grandstands, this innovator continues to challenge the racing game on his own terms. Our eagle eye in the paddock, Robin Miller, has zeroed in on a couple of stories we know you'll hear about in the coming weeks.
It's a foregone conclusion that Juan Montoya is going to be in Formula One someday. Maybe next year, maybe 2002. But the latest name to surface is Dario Franchitti. Jaguar is interested in the 27-year-old Scotsman. Franchitti's got a decision to make. Stay here and try and win the championship. Barry Green's throwing a lot of money at him next year, or take his final shot at Formula One. When you're 28 years old, you're over the hill in Formula One, so he's got a big decision ahead of him. And there's more. I'm one of the panelists for the Driver of the Year Award. Sportscasters, sports writers from around the country vote on it every year. Last year we did a real disservice to this guy right here, Juan Montoya. He won 7 poles, 7 races, the kart championship, only the second rookie to ever win the kart championship. Who did we elect Driver of the Year? Dale Jarrett. 3 victories, won the NASCAR championship. So this year, the Driver of the Year Award, Montoya wins the second quarter. You know, we've got this guy, he's the best driver we've seen in a long, long time. Maybe we finally figured it out. For Inside Kart, this is Robin Miller.
Coming up on Inside Kart, we read your email and preview next week's show. Stay with us.
Inside Kart was presented by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. Also brought to you by the new generation in communications, WorldCom Generation D. By Kart.com. Follow all the kart action on and off the track live on Kart.com. And by Ford, the latest innovations, the greatest tradition.
As the Champ Cars roll into Toronto, let's take a look back at last year's race.
On July 8, 1999, the Kart FedEx Championship Series stormed into exhibition plains for the Molson Indy Toronto. Veteran Gilles de Ferran grabbed the pole, with Scotsman Dario Franchitti starting alongside. Franchitti took the lead with a bold move on lap 1 and dominated the entire race, despite repeated challenges from teammate Paul Tracy, who would wind up second, and the hard-charging Christian Fittipaldi. With the win, Franchitti drew to within 7 points of series leader rookie Juan Montoya.
A 1-2 finish. What more could we ask for?
Be there this year with Franchitti, Tracy, and Montoya race for victory on the streets of Toronto.
This Saturday, see kart qualifying at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN2. On Sunday, start off with Kart Today at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. And then at 3 p.m., it's the Molson Indy from the streets of Toronto on ESPN. Check Kart.com for Kart Radio Network listings in your area.
Well, guess what? We've got more mail from you guys. This letter is from Craig van Battenberg.
And he wants to know, did Honda invent using a map sensor for airflow calculations instead of a MAF sensor? Was this done in the early 80s while they were gearing up for F1? Did VTEC also come out of F1?
Well, Craig, we've turned that question over to one of our technical experts, and we will have the answer for you on next week's show. Thank you for writing in, Craig. If any of you out there think that you might know what the answer is to that question, please let us know at insidekart@kart.com.
Coming up this week on Inside Kart,
we profile rookie Alex Tagliani and go behind the scenes of Sylvester Stallone's new racing film. Bill Adam reveals the intricate detail of Champ Car setup, and Robin Miller goes around the paddock. All this and more next week on Inside Kart.
Well, that's it from this week's show. I'm Michelle Garforth.
And I'm Chris Miles. We'll see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. here on ESPN2.
We'll be coming at you from Toronto. Till then, bye for now.